Thank you, Ceann Corla. Taoiseach, on Saturday you were 50 metres away from a historic demonstration in this country. It was, of course, the 25,000 strong, predominantly youthful, March for Choice that took place in Dublin, which called for a referendum to repeal the 8th Amendment abortion ban, something, Taoiseach, you've continually tried to avoid despite all the polls showing a huge demand. Taoiseach, at the end of the protest for repeal, Minister Catherine Zappone posited an idea that we might need something to replace the 8th Amendment in our Constitution. And I want to ask you, Taoiseach, if you agree with her, or if you agree with that, and if so, why? Why, after the tragedies, the folly of putting something into the Constitution, equating a woman with a fetus, why would you seriously contemplate putting something else there, policing women's bodies? And by the way, there's nothing normal about this, Taoiseach. There's nothing normal about putting anything about abortion or women's health in a constitution. There's only one other country that I'm aware of that does that, and that's Chile, which was done under a murderous military dictator called General Pinochet. So I'm asking you, Taoiseach, on behalf of women and young people in this country, not to go there. Now, Taoiseach, you've been 41 years in the Dáil. You've been here since 1975. During that time, you took part in very important decisions affecting women in this country. But during that time, 165,000 women had to travel outside this state for an abortion while you were in the Dáil. Did you ever give those women a second thought when you were making decisions on these crucial decisions? And I'm asking you, in what could be one of your final acts as Taoiseach, I'm asking you to break a pattern that we've seen over 4 decades in the Dáil of you being on the more backward Conservative side of all these vital decisions. Taoiseach, you were here to vote for the 8th Amendment in 1983. Did you have any qualms at all, having heard the reservations of the Attorney-General at the time and many other people? You were here to vote for the off-you-go clauses on travel and information in 1992. But most crucially, Taoiseach, you were here as a leader of the country when a pivotal event happened, a woman needlessly dying in a Galway hospital, having been asked for and been refused an abortion. Taoiseach, you could have ensured that that never happens again in this country, but that's not the case right now. You ignored the pleas of Savita's parents, for example, to introduce a law protecting women's health. So, rather than repeal the 8th Amendment, you chose to criminalise women for having abortions. So, Taoiseach, my question is this. Will you, for the first time, listen to and trust women to make these decisions for themselves? Will you agree the Constitution is not the place, and is proven not to be, to decide on these issues? That ultimately the Church and State has to stay out of what are personal decisions for people. And Taoiseach, we all know there will be a referendum. Will you make sure it's a referendum to repeal and not amend the 8th Amendment?
Taoiseach.
Well, thank you, Deputy Coppinger. You described the insertion into the Constitution by the people as a tragedy. Unfortunately, the Constitution belongs to the people. I happen to be here to actually legislate for the first time in 30 years on what that Constitution means, as interpreted by the Supreme Court. I do happen to listen to the many stories, many tragic stories indeed, in recent times of women. That's why I think it's entirely appropriate that we should have 99 citizens from locations around the country, men and women, different age groups, to tease out the questions surrounding the 8th Amendment, and to do so under the chairmanship of a Supreme Court Justice, Mr Foy, whom I'm sure will do a first-class job. I think it's in everybody's interest, Deputy Coppinger, that there be a sensitive, rational, comprehensive discussion about this, and that's the purpose of the Citizens' Assembly, and that's why I'm glad that its first meeting will take place on the 15th of October, a couple of weeks, and that everybody from all sides of an argument that has divided Irish society very bitterly for 30 years or more can make their contribution and can have their say. When the Assembly provides its recommendations, it will come back here to this House, and depending on the outcome of those recommendations, the members of the Oireachtas will vote according to their conscience as to where we proceed from here. The reason we're having the Citizens' Assembly is to address the many sensitive issues that obviously have arisen and the stories that people are confronted with on a regular basis. I spoke to some of the people who were on the march on Saturday, and obviously they made their views very clear. But there are, very divided opinions about this subject, and will be during the course of the next over the next number of months, I expect, while the Assembly goes about its business. I think it's a very reasonable thing in Ireland in 2016 to allow people from all sides to make their contribution, as I said, on an issue that is and has always been quite divisive.
Deputy Coppin.
Taoiseach, you say you set up the Citizens' Assembly to hear stories. We've ample stories. In fact, you commented on none of the questions that I put about your role in this House over 4 decades on these issues. We've had the stories of 2 women travelling. I know they tweeted you. I don't think you tweeted anything back. I know your health minister offered them tea and sympathy while sending them out of the country. I know you've been tweeted on a lot of issues to do with women's reproductive rights, Taoiseach, and you've refused to comment. Taoiseach, I just want to make clear, we can win a repeal of the 8th Amendment without any further restriction, which is what I fear is being cooked up, to be put into the Constitution in terms of restrictive legislation or an amendment to the 8th Amendment. We can win that. All of the opinion polls, which you keep denying and eschewing opinion polls, but you set up an opinion poll of 99 people in a Citizens' Assembly. But all of them show that 73% want a referendum held and 80% believe health is a key issue. And I just wanted to make something clear, Taoiseach. When people say repeal, the word repeal, that's what people were wearing on Saturday. They mean revoke, to make null and void, not replace, not amend. And it's just, lest there be any confusion among you or any of your ministers about that. That's what people marched for, and that's what they'll get.
Thank you, Deputy Coppinger. Taoiseach.
Yeah, I respect your view completely, but it's not a black and white situation. T-shirts might be black with the writing in white, but this is about people, and they've all got different views. And if 20,000 marched on weekend, or 30,000, obviously the reason that we have the Citizens' Assembly, Deputy Coppinger, is to allow people to have their say, and they will be entitled and are entitled to have their say. And everybody can have personal opinions about this. This is an Oireachtas decision, endorsed here, government decision, endorsed here by the Oireachtas, to set up a Citizens' Assembly. And I admire the courage of those 99 who have stepped forward to say, I will participate in this discussion. Not an easy thing for many of them to do, given the nature of the divisive response that can come from participating in something like this. I admire their courage in doing that. And I hope that as these hearings will be streamed live, that everybody, both at home and abroad, can listen to those conversations, can have their views on them, and that under the direction of Ms Justice Lafoy, the recommendations will come back here to the Oireachtas, and we'll move on from there.
Thank you very much.
I want to assure you that there is nothing being cooked up here. This is a very straightforward democratic exercise, a selection of 99 citizens to give their view, and their view may well be divided, may well be divisive, I don't know, but I look forward to the engagement and the contributions that they will make.